Welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Melissa Chalker, Program Manager of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging to provide information and resources to boomers, seniors, and caregivers. Something we can all agree on regardless of our age is that we could probably be a little more organized. I'm sure we all have at least a little bit of clutter at home. When this becomes an issue is when you decide to move. For seniors who may be downsizing, tips on how to organize and pack may be helpful. Even if you aren't planning a move, keeping your bills and other important mail in order can be difficult. Did you know that there are programs designed to help seniors and disabled individuals with these tasks? On today's show, Barbara Goodman, a Senior Move Manager with Moving Solutions, and Susan Thiers from the Family and Children's Services of Monmouth County's Representative Payee Program will talk to us about decluttering and getting organized. Ladies, thank you both for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. As I said in the opening, we are talking today about decluttering and getting organized. And Barbara, I did mention that you are a move specialist. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And
yes.
Could you tell us what a move specialist is?
Basically, we're professionals who help mostly older adults, but our clients vary in age. In the whole process of moving from their homes to generally to senior communities, but we've had people moving other places as well. And sometimes we work on both ends or one end of the move, where we will have people coming from another part of the country and moving into our area, and we'll help them with the unpacking and setting up in their new apartments. But we work with people, most of our clients, along the whole process. From downsizing, figuring out what they're going to take, sorting through their things, figuring out ways to get rid of things that they aren't going to be taking with them.
Sure.
We help them decide which things they're going to take, and we have a very nice little floor planning system that we can measure furniture and put it that's to scale on their their layout for their new apartments, so they can tell exactly how things are going to fit, whether they're going to be too many things, or whether they're going to be in a arrangement that's safe and not a fall risk.
Sure.
And we work with them in all those aspects.
Well, that certainly seems like it encompasses quite a lot of things. Are there some general tips that you usually give people who are looking to get organized?
We kind of talk to people about if they're doing it on their own, a good way to downsize and start downsizing is you look at the whole situation, the situation as a whole, and it looks so overwhelming. But the best way is to break it down in small pieces. Start out with one area, one room, a closet perhaps, or a desktop, and just put yourself in that room with a garbage bag, in the case of a desktop, maybe your shredder nearby, some file folders, and start, go through things, and don't leave the room. And don't work generally we advise people not to work for more than 2 hours at a time, because after that you kind of lose focus. And sometimes actually paperwork may not always be the best thing. Start out with something easy, maybe a bookshelf, where you can decide a little more quickly about which books you no longer want to keep. Libraries are always looking for books. Have some boxes nearby to take them out. Some of the real problem areas tend to be clothes closets, underneath the vanities in the bathroom, where you might have. We all tend to fill up the amount of space that we have.
Yes.
So when you go to a hotel and you have those nice little soap samples and things, you end up bringing them home and they end up in the vanity, things like that. And in clothes closets also, a lot of people, myself included, tend to think, well, so I lost a little weight, and or I've gained a little weight, and this doesn't fit me anymore, but I'll keep it just in case. And just in case doesn't come, or your lifestyle changes and you're wearing different kinds of clothing and you're not using that. Right. One of the tips we suggest is at the beginning of a season, when you have, for example, a winter, turn all the hangers around in your closet of your winter clothes in the opposite direction that you normally hang them. And every time you wear something, put it in the correct direction. And at the end of the season, it'll give you a pretty good idea of what you haven't worn that whole season. And you might want to seriously think about giving that away, donating. There are a lot of charities who will take clothing. Another way is just to keep a bag in your closet or in your bedroom, and every time you wear something, you say if it's something that you know, maybe isn't looking as good as it was when you bought it, into the bag.
Right.
And when the bag gets full, it can be donated. Or another tip is make a rule for yourself. Anytime something new comes in, something old goes out, which is another way of keeping things under control. The hardest items dealing with are things like collections,
Yes.
and treasures that from trips or things that you've gathered over the years.
That brings up a good point, I think, things that might have an emotional attachment, like you're saying, whether it be a collection or something that maybe was a gift or something that was a family heirloom, something that's kind of difficult to get rid of. Are there tips you have for working
some of the
those
things for family heirlooms might be passing them on to your children. And other things, I've suggested to people where, you know, offer things to your children, and if they take them, then you'll always have a chance to see them again, providing, you know, or they can, and then it will have them to pass on to their children. Right. I had one client with a collection that I thought did something very clever. She had an owl collection, and when it was time to move, she knew she couldn't take her whole collection because she was moving from a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom apartment. And so what she did was she selected the three that she liked the best, and then gave each of her friends one of the others, friends and children, which was a way of thinking about her when they saw it.
And I'm sure that you have, you know, other examples of that, because with each individual, it might be something different. You know, someone might feel better about it going to a family member. Someone might feel good about it going to a charity, or somewhere where they know that someone who needs it can use it. So I gather there are probably a lot of examples like that.
I mean, there are ways of selling things, but nowadays, unless it's a real antique or something, it's hard to get money for a lot of things. So another thing we suggest to people, as you said, if they have a favorite charity, and oftentimes, even if they're things that might have a little more value than ordinary things, like a piece of china or something like that, a decorative item that might have a little bit of value to, or other people might enjoy having, it can be donated to a charity that's having a silent auction or something of that sort, and they will actually then get some money for the item, and it'd be easier than trying to sell it where you're going to get very little for it.
Sure. Do you often find yourself ever giving advice to the family members as well, who are maybe assisting the senior with their move? Yeah,
one of the things I think seems to be a problem often with family members is a professional or someone like myself who's not emotionally attached. I mean, we like our clients very much and we care about them, but if you're not emotionally attached or involved in the situation, it's often easier to be a lot more objective, whereas children can tend to be very subjective. And there's a book out, actually, which I think probably describes the situation. It's entitled, "Don't Trash My Memories."
Oh, wow.
And, you know, sometimes things that may seem very valuable to the client may not seem as valuable to the family member. And so, hard as it is, one of the things we advise people is try not be too judgmental about what your parent is doing. This tends to be an issue where people will tell me that they tried to do this with their children, but they really can't do it because they end up screaming at each other when the daughter says, "You really don't want that." Right. Or "Why are you keeping that?"
Right. So rather than causing an argument, you're there as an objective third party to kind of intervene.
Exactly.
And advise.
And sometimes people are more willing to take advice from us than they would be from a family member.
Because as you say, there's not that emotional connection and attachment to it. How much time do you often recommend people take, you know, if they're really truly downsizing to move? You know, how long should they, how far out?
I don't think it's ever too soon to get started. Generally, we often work with clients several months in advance of a move. That's the ideal situation because then it can be done slowly and carefully and the person's really still in control. If you start to do it 2 days before, then it just has to be done and everything quickly, and it's much more stressful.
Right, and you don't have the time to really consider some of those things. You don't have the time to
make the decisions, and especially there's situations where people are moving out of their home that they've sold, and the house has to be emptied out and they have to move all at the same time. That's really not an ideal situation because then all the decisions have to be made at once. We've had clients who, the easiest way I've seen do it is I had a client who moved a month ahead of the house being closed on and took only a very minimal amount of things to her new apartment. I mean, the furniture all got moved, but the other smaller personal items, she said she was very organized, decided that she was only going to take a limited amount of things because she didn't want clutter in her new apartment. And then every day went back to the house for the next month and either brought things back or took things back to decide. And then near the end of the month, we went in and we packed up everything. We had some things going to a charity, that the things that remained, we had things going to her daughters, and we had things that just really weren't useful anymore, for anything. So we did a clean out.
Right. Great.
So there are all kinds of different ways, but taking the time, and it's never too soon to start, even if you're not thinking about moving. I bet almost everybody has things in their home that could be useful to somebody else that they're not using.
Sure. I think your tip about the closet and turning the hangers in the opposite direction is a really great tip. Do you have any other similar tips? Maybe you mentioned the vanity, and having those things. Do you have any tips?
Just kind of being careful and going through your vanity, your bathroom vanities periodically, and just make sure old makeup and things, which really can be harmful because it gathers bacteria. Of course, another area too is the pantry closet.
Yes.
I think all of us, if we go through our pantries, probably have outdated food and things. So it's a good idea to go through your pantry every so often and just check the expiration dates on the food and things. Spice cabinets, spices, outdated spices or spices that you're not using anymore. Or think about items even in your kitchen cabinets that you're really not using, or if you have, how many 6-inch we always tell clients when they move, how many 6-inch frying pans do you need? Or, how many bunt pans do you need? Or those kinds of things.
Right.
And also in the case of many of our clients, they're moving to senior communities or independent living apartments where they're actually going to be eating their main meal every day in the dining room.
Right.
So they're not going to be cooking as much.
Right.
And for some of them, that's the reason they're moving.
Right. Sure.
I had one lady who said, the day that we were there packing, said, "Watch me, I'm doing a happy dance because I don't have to cook dinner anymore."
That's fantastic. But the kitchen might also be an area where people might be attached to things, talk about family heirlooms. They might have those 6 bunt pans because one belonged to their grandmother
Exactly.
and one was a gift from a very special friend,
My boss tells a story about how she had a favorite cake plate that was her mother's. And she made a cake for somebody that she was visiting, or for a party or whatever, and took the cake there, and the plate was left behind, and the lady said she'd return it to her. The next day she got a phone call, and the lady said to her, "I hope that plate wasn't really special to you." And she said, "Well," I sort of swallowed and said, "Well, it's okay. It was my mother's, but that's okay." And then she said, my mother is in my heart, and I will remember her, and I don't really need that cake plate to remember my mother.
Right.
And there's a lot of truth to that.
Sure. I'm sure you find yourself reminding many clients of that they have their memories and that it's not necessarily important to keep the item. But I'm sure there are some instances where you would
definitely
encourage them if it's really that special.
Certainly there's very special things like somebody's wedding. We see people's wedding pictures and all kinds of interesting, mementos or things. And there's certainly, we never discourage anyone we encourage people to take, really special treasures in a limited amount.
Sure, because you want them to be practical and start off organized in their new place.
Start off organized in their new home.
Sure, sure.
Because many of the people that we're working with are older and somewhat frail, and the worst thing you want to do is have, things so cluttered that they become unsafe for them.
Sure. Sure. I mean, you mentioned fall risks pretty early on in the conversation, and that is a real concern. That if you've got stacks of things or too much decor laying around, you know, if there's things that you can get tripped up on, and you don't want to take that risk of hurting yourself because of those items. So it's a great service that you're able to provide to folks. One other area where family members or seniors themselves might get concerned is watching that stack of mail pile up and really be concerned about paying their bills on time and what are they doing with those things. And so that's why Sue has gracefully agreed to join us today and talk a little bit about those programs that are available to help folks in organizing their bills and those items. So could you tell us a little bit about exactly what a representative payee, and I know often for short they're called Rep Payee Programs, is that right? Yeah, Rep Payee
for short. Representative Payee is set up through Social Security Administration to receive and handle the checks on behalf of clients who they have deemed, or a physician has deemed, either cognitively, there's mental health issues, drug and alcohol addiction issues, or just cases where for some health reason that they're not able to properly manage their Social Security funds. We have almost 500 clients in our program currently throughout the state. They're the more severe cases of people, and in the elderly community, more with Alzheimer's and dementia, that we basically take into our program. We receive their checks, we set up payments for them, we make sure that their rent is paid on time, their electric stays on, the heat's on, and just basically oversee and make sure that they have proper, utilities, shelter, and money to live on. We also run a program through AARP Money Management, which is a little less severe. That's a voluntary program.
So that's a program whereas the representative payee, someone is referred because of a condition or illness that's preventing them from being able to manage their money, where the money management program through AARP is one where I'm having trouble at home and I can pick up the phone and call you and say, I need help with this.
Right. Or you can have a family member refer or a neighbor, and that's where a volunteer goes to the home, and we set up volunteers with clients to go and sit with them for as long as it takes to sit down and go through everything and organize everything and help them to get everything straight.
So what do you find are some problems or solutions, perhaps, that are most usually referred to people? Like, how do they organize that? Do you put them on a schedule? If this gets paid this day? Do you find that they're able to use like an online banking system at all?
Yeah, there's many different situations. We go in to really assess the client first to see how much they're actually able to handle. Normally walking into dining room tables full of bills, and they're embarrassed, and they've been probably months before anybody knew there was a situation. A lot of times we get called in because their lights were turned off, because they just couldn't find the bill in the pile. So we sit with them, we take the time to help them to organize, we have them have a cup of coffee, very large garbage can, because almost 80% of what's on that table is junk. I mean, you see it every day in your mailbox. Marketers have become very good at sending things to you that look like they're from Medicare. And for all of you who just went through the open enrollment, it's just inundated. It's crazy what they send. So we sit, we say, listen, this is not real. This is garbage. Next time this shows up, go in. We sit, we make piles. These are your bills. Accordion folders are absolutely,
that's a great tip.
Absolutely great. You can get them at the dollar store. We sit, we make files for Medicare, bills, utilities, taxes, however intricate they want to get, or however simple they want to get. And we help them to slowly organize the bills that are there. Moving forward, we ask them when the mail comes, you know what, if you can do it on your own, that's fine. If you're waiting till we come back to help you do it the next time, find the slot that it goes into. Stay organized, stay on top of it, and don't be afraid to open your mail, ever.
So how frequently would a volunteer come out to assist someone with that? Normally
about once a month, around whatever time they would like to pay their bills. Sometimes more than that if they are visually impaired. We have a lot of clients who are visually impaired. To open the mail, to read it for them, because they don't know really what's coming in. But on average, about once a month.
About once a month.
Right.
So are there other, the accordion file is a great tip, and I know I mentioned briefly online banking, and I know you know, seniors are often fearful of that, but do you find that the volunteers have been able to help them to utilize that?
It's been extremely successful. There's some people who still shy away and they won't do it. They like the old-fashioned checkbook, and that's fine too, as long as you're making sure that you're looking in your checkbook. Make sure everything is right. Open your bank statements. Check your bank statements, because it's amazing how many people do not. They either throw them away or they put them away, and you know, we know there's problems sometimes with banking. If you know that the money's there and you have someone to help you budget, absolutely online banking, so you don't have to worry about those bills coming through. As long as you're on top of it and checking to make sure,
because it's you still, you know, it's
there's
not
enough funds available.
It's not done. It's not all set up and done. You still have to manage it. You still have to look at it and make sure, and oversee that. So that's a great thing, you know. And sometimes maybe sitting with a volunteer might give them a little more confidence to use a service like that than if they were trying to figure it out on their own. Right,
because the initial setup can be daunting. I mean, you might have a trusted family member, somebody, a friend that could sit with you and set it up. But once it's set up, it's, you know, it's very, very simple. And as long as you're checking your statements and making sure that everything is coming out on a timely basis, then it's a great idea. Great idea.
You know, certainly, you know, you've mentioned the pride issue, and you know, it is tough for seniors to acknowledge that they're having trouble, and so I'm sure you get calls from family members or even, you said, neighbors who are referring people because they notice a problem. What are some things that family members should look out for that would indicate a problem?
Well, I would say, again, just the large stacks of things when you walk in. We've had a lot of clients who put things under couch pillows, and you know, they hide, or we'll get done with the dining room table and they'll go, well, while you're here, and then there's another room full. But if you see large stacks of paperwork that's not opened, you know, gently, I would say, just say, well, how about we sit down and let's go through this and just see what's in here. And again, show them what's, you know, what's junk mail, what's advertising, the lottery scams. I mean, there's so much that comes through.
That's the other unfortunate thing.
Throw it away.
Yeah, there are a lot of scams. Are there tips that you've given clients on how to really spot what's a scam or what's not real? I mean, are there things to look for in that way?
Yeah, I try to just remind everybody that, as good as it sounds, you know, we have a lot of clients who wound up in our Rep Payee program because they felt that, yes, the Jamaican lottery was a great thing to do, and I only had to send $250. Of course, people know you don't ever have to pay to win money. Those people that send you the quarter and the dollar, and that they feel so guilty because that, you know, they feel that because they did that, and that's why they do it. So just, I take the dollar, and sometimes it makes them crazy, but I say, if you don't want to take it, I shred it and I throw it in the garbage. Now you owe them nothing. So don't ever feel because it's marketing. They're marketing you on purpose. So throw it away. That's the biggest thing. Trash can is your friend. Get rid of it, throw it away, and then you've got a tiny little stack of things that are really important. Your Medicare summary notices from CMS. Do you save them? You can. If you want to, you can save them. If not, you can shred them. You know,
because that's just letting you know what's been accounted for through your Medicare. So it's,
look at it. If you want to save it, that's fine. If you need it moving down the road, you call 1-800-Medicare. They will send you another copy.
And the only thing you're really looking for there is a discrepancy that you would want to call and report. And so if there's not, there's really no reason to keep it necessarily.
And for those who frequent the doctors, you know that they come in quite frequently, and you know, they really do pile up. So look at them. If you have a shredder, shred them. If not, just tear them up, you know, and just get rid of them. And like I said, if you need a copy, you can certainly call and order another one. That's not the only copy that you're going to get. So.
Great. Well, those are all really great tips as well, and I think they're things that our viewers at home who are even maybe not having trouble, but just could use a few tips to get organized. Things like the accordion file and throwing out some of those things that you don't need that we tend to hang on to. Oh, you know, maybe one day I'll fill out this survey, and you just kind of hang on to it.
Throw it away. Get rid of it. I'll buy from that catalog.
Exactly. I mean, we've all got that stack of catalogs at home, I'm sure. So I want to thank you both again for joining me. Are there any last pieces of advice that either of you have for our viewers when it comes to getting organized at home?
I would just say, don't let it get ahead of you. Just keep on top of it. Make it a job that you do every day, and just take care of it on a daily basis.
That's good.
I pretty much agree with that. Or look around when you have some time. Look around one of the troublesome areas that I described before, and just tackle it and see, and it'll make you feel good. And if you do it a little bit at a time, then it doesn't feel as overwhelming.
Sure, that's a great idea. You know, and I think with the seasons is a great tip too. Not just with your clothes, but maybe you know, pick a season to go through that spice rack that you talked about and clean up those things. You know, and I think both
about your lifestyle.
Sure.
I mean, you know, back in the day where we all used to wear matching pocketbooks and shoes is probably gone. Some of those handbags in your closet you probably haven't used for many years.
And perhaps some of our viewers might have a granddaughter or a niece who might find some use in that bag. And so how about a great way to get rid of that, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you both again. I think you've provided some valuable information to our viewers, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I would like to again thank our guests for joining us today and sharing their time with us. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. To make a donation to the foundation or to sponsor the Aging Insight program, please go to our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org or call us at the office at 609-421-0206. We want to remind you to find out about senior services in your area. Please contact your County Office on Aging, also known as an Aging and Disability Resource Connection. You will see a listing of those numbers on our website, or you may call the state hotline number at 1-877-222-3737. Thank you for watching this episode of Aging Insights, and remember, aging is everyone's business.